It's saying it's live. It's live.
Hey everybody, welcome into the room. While you're coming in, go ahead and share this live. Let me try to edit some things. I will not be flagged for this music. Hold on. Oh, it's not letting me. At the end of my road, when I'm floating in space, it's all good. When the whole world is caving, oh, you're my saving grace. You make me wonder. More in the room. Hey, Monica. While you're coming in, go ahead and say hello. Share the live with your friends or invite somebody to the group. And if it's people that usually are on here, you do not see their name in the comment section, go ahead and type their name in the comment section. My name is Sharika Mitchell, and I am the host of Mind Matter. I'm sure you guys already know my name. And thank you guys for joining us on tonight. Thanks, Alan. Teamwork. Teamwork. Give me hope. Show me love is somebody. Start with loving yourself. You make me wonder. This I put it in the place. You make me wonder. So go ahead and groove to the music that is playing. How do you do? Some superpower don't understand. You're so passionate. All right, I'm gonna put a pin right there. Hi everyone, welcome and welcome to Mind Matter, the month of November. Thank you guys for joining us on last month. We had the awesome Stacy who came and spoke about suicide prevention. Now this month is domestic violence October. I'm sorry. This month, which is October, is domestic violence awareness month, and we have an amazing guest on from Broken Wings Foundation. I may have screwed it all up, but it's okay. She gonna fix me at the end. And her name is Ashley Nicole. Um, Welcome to My Matter. You guys know what we do. This is a free space where we come on and we talk about everything dealing with the mind. Anything that can lead you in stress, anything that can lead you into depression, whether that's your finances, life, domestic violence, suicide prevention. We talk about it. We discuss it. It's a safe space, but we also go ahead and respect our people that are also on this platform. Um, so what is um domestic violence awareness? What is domestic violence? We're going to talk about all that on tonight, okay? Just stay tuned. We're going to talk about all of that. What is domestic violence? What is domestic violence awareness? We're going to talk about all that. It is bringing light to a situation that needs to have a light shined on it. That's what it is. So tonight we're going to dig into her story. We're going to dig into the things that she has went through. We're going to dig into how she survived, how she's gotten out of it,
And we're going to see what resources are out there if we have somebody who is coming back to view this broadcast that is dealing with domestic violence. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open the floor up to her. Again, if you do not see your sister, your brother on here, because men can also deal with domestic violence, it's not just the women. If you see your sister or your brother and they are not on here, go ahead and tag their name in the bottom. As you're coming into the room, just go ahead and say hello. How y'all doing? Just type that in the comment section. And if you are watching the replay, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section. So I'm going to come on and I'm going to bring Ashley on. Ashley, can you tell the people hello?
Hey, everyone. First, I want to just thank you, Sharika, for the opportunity to come on the platform. I'm super excited. My name is Ashley Nicholas. I'm a wife, a mother of three, an entrepreneur, and also I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I went through domestic violence for over 7 years in two different relationships. It was a hard time, lonely, but by the grace of God, I'm here to share my testimony with the hope that I can help someone else.
Yes, I love it. That is awesome. And my next question for you, Ashley, I know we said that we was going to talk about what domestic violence means. Can you explain to the people who have not dealt with domestic violence, what is domestic violence?
So domestic violence is really about control and manipulation. People think that domestic violence is really like a loss of temper, but really it's a pattern of abusive behavior used to gain control over the victim. Domestic violence can be physical, sexual, emotional, or financial. A lot of times, the abusers use scare tactics to manipulate you, to hurt you or blame you, or to make you feel intimidated. So there are many forms of domestic violence, Sharika. I know personally, I experienced the physical abuse, emotional abuse, and the financial abuse. See, emotional and financial abuse are really, really difficult to deal with because you don't even know that you're being abused. For me, I'm naturally a giver. So, really, I do things out of the kindness of my heart. So, when I got into these situations, it was very easy for people to take advantage of me because I didn't even know that I was being abused. So if you're just coming in, it could be physical, sexual, emotional, or financial. Another thing that I want to mention is I was also overweight and I struggled with my weight, self-image, and all. So I didn't even recognize the emotional abuse either because my spirit was already low. I already felt worthless. So having somebody to tell me I'm fat, telling me I'm unworthy, these were words that I kind of felt about myself anyway. So I didn't notice it as abuse.
Mm, that's good. So I'm gonna lead that into the next question, which is, why is it so important to bring awareness to domestic violence?
I think it's important to bring awareness to domestic violence because people need to know that they're not alone. You see, domestic violence is taking so many lives in the community, all because people are afraid to break their silence. It's not okay to be abused. It's not okay for your children to be abused. A lot of times, people think domestic violence doesn't affect everyone. But the fact is, it really does affect everyone. I can say that because even for myself, while I went through it, I didn't think that it was affecting my kids the way that it was. It wasn't until the aftermath that I realized that the damage that was done to my children.
So it not only affects the victim, it also affects the children. What about family, like your parents, because they also
Mhm.
have to deal with that
Yeah,
turmoil.
yeah, it
Yeah.
affects your parents. It affects everyone in your circle, your friends, your co-workers, because you really change your behavior. Your behavior can change. You start to feel more withdrawn, so you're not really being yourself. So that can affect your work, your ability to focus. It's really a domino effect. And I think it's
Mhm.
important for us as a community to bring awareness to it, because it's not only women that are affected by domestic violence. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's children, and it's also men, and it could be that maybe you didn't go through the domestic violence, but maybe your parent did. Maybe you're
Mhm.
a product of it, and because of it, you don't know how to love or how to receive love, or it could be that you are a friend just trying to help another friend who is going through domestic violence. So I would say it's important to bring awareness so people can know exactly what abuse looks like.
Okay. And 9 times out of 10, most people ignore it or don't want to get involved.
Hmm.
A lot of things can happen. My
Yeah.
next question is, um, what? Let me see. Okay, are there any signs of the beginning of the? Were there any signs at the beginning of your relationship that showed that you were dealing with an abuser when you were dealing with your domestic violence situation?
So yeah, there were many signs. One sign I would say was isolation.
Mhm.
My abuser wanted to keep me to himself, so he would really try to couple it with "I love you" and "I just want to spend time with you," but really it was just so that he could abuse. And the more that he could isolate me from friends and family, the more he was going to gain my loyalty. That's how I look at it. So I would say, yeah, there were plenty of signs. One,
Mhm.
isolation. Two, the need to control. Um, he was very manipulative even in the beginning. um, a lot of times in domestic violence situations, um, it's a person that comes into the relationship that maybe doesn't have things, like maybe they don't have a car, they don't have, a job. So they rely on the other person to do everything. So I think that was one of the beginning signs, having somebody that wasn't whole and complete and able to, help me and my children at the same time.
Right. We do have a question in the chat, but I think I'm gonna ask a question before we get to the question in the chat because I know with the signs you said that there were many signs, and I just want to ask for myself because I've never been in a domestic violence situation, and we learn by education.
Mhm.
Is there reasons why victims ignore the signs,
Yes.
or I can't say that you ignored it,
So
or is
look,
that love?
I wouldn't say ignoring the sign. I would say it's more so like I long for love.
I was about to say, was it just love?
So for me, I kind of put it off like, oh, it's not that bad,
Mhm.
He's not gonna do it again. That's really what I thought. Like after taking my first hit, he literally said to me, I will never hit you again. And that was literally the cycle of being abused, on a regular. So I would say that the biggest thing is for someone like me, I just wanted a relationship. I wanted somebody to love me. And that's why I would say people ignore the signs.
Okay,
And then, like I talked about earlier on, if it's like financial abuse, if you're naturally a giver,
a giver.
you're not going to notice it right away because you're just wanting to give to help, and it's being, they're manipulating you by that.
And the question that we have in the chat is, did your family try to intervene in your relationship to try to remove you from it?
Yes, my family did try to intervene. In the very beginning, they would say little things like, you sure you want to date them? You sure they're a good fit for you? And I would brush it off because I was like, you don't know what's best for me. I'm grown. I just wanted to do my own thing, put it that way. So yeah, I would say in the very beginning, yes, my family did try to intervene, but I was too hard headed. I didn't even, I wouldn't even listen to them. And then by the time that they did try to intervene, honestly, it was just too late. I was too damaged, too many bad decisions. to where I had to really learn for myself. Even if they were to intervene, the damage was already done.
So then my next question is, why do victims sometimes return or stay in the situation?
I think victims stay out of fear. Um,
Mhm.
victims victims stay because they're in fear. I know for myself, I was in fear, and I felt like it could only get worse if I tried to leave, or if I stayed, I know it would get worse. But it's like, okay, I'm in it now. Where am I going? Um, and then there was a part of me that wanted to protect my abuser. I didn't want the world to see him the way that I had to see him. Like, a lot of times abusers will put on a facade, there'll be one way in public and another way behind closed doors. And because I love my abuser, I really wanted to protect him. I didn't want people to see that he was that ugly or that mean. I didn't want people to see that. And I think that this change in behavior, it does make it hard for victims to believe, for their friends or family to believe that they're really in a domestic situation, because here you have a spouse that is really, really nice and coming to all the family events and checking off all the boxes, and then going home and doing the exact opposite. And for me, I didn't have a lot of physical scars in the beginning. So it really was the emotional abuse in my first situation. And in my second, it escalated. It was much more physical abuse, and financial abuse. And the physical abuse, my abuser would hit me low, like on my legs or my knees, so that it wasn't seen in public. I can recall a time where I was punched so hard that my jaw had popped out of place. But I never went to the emergency room because I was in fear. I didn't know if they would lock him up. I know it sounds crazy to say, but I was protecting him. So I didn't want him to go to jail. And then unfortunately, when you share a child with someone, it makes you even more protective, because it's like, do I really want to do this and, risk my child growing up without a father?
That's understandable. It's your story. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's understandable. And I commend you for going through it and getting out of it and surviving.
Thank you
Um,
so much.
and my next question is it possible for a abuser to change? Do you think it's possible for them to change?
So that's a good question. I would say anything is possible, Sharika, but abuser has to have the right mindset, that they're ready to change. In my situation, change just seemed so far from the truth. Change was hard because they would have had to change their circles, their friends, their habits. And honestly, people don't change when they know and they're comfortable where they are. So I believe that a lot of times people will, how am I trying to say this? They will try to, um, they will keep doing something in order to justify, it's what, that's how I am. That's just the way I grew up. So I believe that, to answer your question, it is possible to change. But when you have someone, or a person that maybe has a less than perfect record, that hasn't had luck with jobs, it's like, how can you expect them to really transition into this straight and narrow person without a lot of support? You really, really need so much support, especially when you've got a blemish record.
I totally understand it. That's just like a person that's addicted on drugs
Yeah.
or somebody that's having mental challenges, your mindset has to change in order for you to be able to change. So I totally understand that. But that's pretty much, I wanted that question for those who probably decide to stay and
Yeah.
thinking that that person would change. So number 7, the next question I have is, how can family and friends support someone that's dealing with domestic violence? And I ask that question because we oftentimes have family members or friends that are dealing with domestic violence situations, but some may try to assist and help, but because we don't see no end to it and we think that our help is sometimes, or maybe we're helping the wrong way. I
Mhm.
want to be educated and I want to educate the people on how can we help someone that is dealing with domestic violence.
So that's a really good question. I know when I needed the help, okay, I wasn't in a place where I was ready to receive the help. So what I would say for that, for a family member or a friend, just love on your person. Pay attention to them. If you notice that they're starting to be more withdrawn, you know, going on do not disturb, or going through periods where you don't hear anything from them for days even, or a person is very irritable, those are usually signs that something is going on. I won't go as far as to say that it could be domestic violence, but something is going on. So I would say use strong discernment, and build a network of love. That's what victims need. They need love. And because, you know, going through bad relationships or going through domestic violence, it skews your perception of love. So it's important for family members and friends to just listen, listen to them. You know, even if you don't necessarily agree with what they're doing, listen and just be there. I can remember my mom talking to me, and my mom was hardcore. So she would say things like, how much do you think it's going to cost to bury you? You know, trying to scare me out of it. And it wasn't working because I'm like, well, she's already given up. So I might as well stay. It doesn't matter. And I'm stuck. But then I would say also another thing is the victims are usually very embarrassed. That's why you have to show love, because it's not an ideal a situation. Just like you said before, people are trying to decide whether they're going to return or whether they're going to leave. So it's tough because one minute you say, I'm out, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore. And then the next minute you're in love and you're doing it another day, you know? So I would say, as a victim, because you can kind of go from two ends of the spectrum, it makes it very difficult. And if I'm being honest with you, it makes it very difficult to have solid support. And just like you said in the beginning, you don't know if this person is going to leave, if they're serious about it, if they've made the decision to change. Change is not just for the abuser, change is for the victim too. Because as a victim, you're learning to do life all by yourself. Like I know for me, I had to accept the fact that I was going to be a single mother, raising two children, and that I was going to have to be mommy and dad. And that was a hard thing for me to face, even though my abuser did not have anything to offer. I still held on to the illusion that he's going to change and he's going to help me. And so it's really the best thing you can do on your platform is just continue to educate people and let them know that there is love out here, there is support out here. Show them healthy ways of love, and you know, continue to do the encouragement, you know, weekly. I think that that's how we're going to reach people. And as we continue to also other victims like myself, breaking our silence is another way to let people know, yes, we support you. Because see, it doesn't really matter if you're the victim, the family member, or the abuser. Your mental health is important. And I say that because I've been in therapy for 7 years trying to undo the damage that I went through. And even now I have setbacks. I have moments where I kind of glide back because I have a you know a recap of what happened to me. I start to think of certain situations, and it's a trigger for me. I have triggers. That's what I'm trying to say. So, mental health is very important for the domestic violence victim. It's important for everybody in it because it's traumatic. It's some people experience near death situations that make it hard for them to trust. It makes it hard for them to love. It makes it hard for them to build friendships. So yeah, I see Pastor Silas in the comments. Therapy has to be ongoing.
And I do agree with that, and it amazes it. I mean, it doesn't come to surprise to me that all of the signs that you were, or all of the things that an abuser go through, is the same thing as anybody that's dealing with mental health challenges, because they're all signs. Ignoring, isolating yourself, all those are the same sign, because that mentally you're you're not with it anymore after being isolated and dealing with that situation. And I do believe that therapy has to be ongoing. That's just like anything from your childhood. In order to be delivered from
Hmm.
your past or your situation, you have to treat it
Yes.
all the time. And like you said, it does, something else can trigger it. So you have to continue to treat it
Yeah.
so that when the triggers come, you know how to deal with them.
Hmm.
So that's awesome, Ashley. I love that. Um I love that, and I'm trying to see where I am at on my notes. Okay, it was the family and friends. So what? And we're talking to some people that's probably still in domestic violence
Yeah.
situations,
Hmm.
or families that have somebody that's in domestic violence situations. What resources are out there that they can either look for, or a supporter can kind of guide them to, that probably helped you or you learned during your survivor journey? What
Hmm.
resources are out there for the survivors, or I mean the people that are dealing with it?
So I would say this. When I was going through it, I was so embarrassed. I didn't really want to talk to anyone, or let alone look for resources. So my resources actually came up in my survivor journey. So they have the National Domestic Violence Hotline. I never called it, but that is a resource. But I do have someone I'd like to plug. Her name is Sonia Holt. She's a domestic violence survivor, and she's the founder of SCARS. It's called Second Chance at Renewing Self. It's a really good nonprofit organization. I got connected with Sonia back when I first came out and identified myself as a victim. I didn't want to go. I didn't like I said, I was embarrassed. And in fact, my husband ended up going with me to the benefit. He's like, I want to support you. You went through this. I'm going to help you. So he went with me, and I remember they asked me did I want to tell my story, but I couldn't. I was still processing things. I was still tearing up every chance that I said something. So I just sat there, Sharika, and I listened to all of the other victims. And the only thought that came to mind was that could have been me. I could see myself in each one of those situations. So I would say Scars, Second Chance at Renewing Self. I'll put it in the comments too for you guys. That someone that may be going through. She's up here in Richmond, and what she does is she helps women get jobs. She helps even with housing, shelter, and I think she has some partnerships with some therapists too. So really, she tries to do the total package. She does give back to the community. She just did her ribbon cutting last year, and I would say this. Another thing that I did when I first came out was I did a YMCA volunteer service. So the YMCA does offer safe housing too. And then if you were a victim and you just want to find a way to give back, you can actually volunteer to do the crisis hotlines. I had a coworker that had volunteered to do the crisis hotline. She too had went through domestic violence. So it's so many resources out there for both the victim and for the survivor. And then, because it's part of my journey, in December of 2020, I did start my own foundation. It's called the Broken Wing Foundation. And my hope is that I will be able to give back to survivors of domestic violence or victims of domestic violence. I'm still navigating all the details with that, trying to get funding. But I'm praying to God that it'll be a clear path soon and I'll be able to give back, because I found that the hardest thing is getting on your feet. I say that for myself as a single mother. It was very hard getting on my feet. I went from being a waitress to taking night classes for almost 6 years just to get my bachelor's degree. And it was tough because you don't really have the support. I remember I met a nice lady up here in Richmond that volunteered to watch my children. And so I would work sometimes 2 shifts. I'd go in at 8 and I'd get off at 5. I'd go pick my kids up and from the daycare, take them to the lady, go to work by 6, get off at 11, and meet her in the parking lot, get my kids, get back into bed and get up and do it all over again. So I will say, it's hard. It's hard. And I really wish that there were more tangible resources for victims. I just think that it's more than just finally confessing that someone hit you. It's like, okay, I was abused, but now what do I do? How do I find a job? How do I get educated? How do I make a better future for my children?
All right. And while you were talking, again, another question just popped up in my head, and we talk about the abuser and the victim. And like you said, you had kids. So
Mhm,
how did you assist them with navigating? Because I'm sure with your son being older,
mhm.
that there were some damages to them as well. So how did you help them navigate and try to find their healthy again?
So actually, with my son was younger when I went through the situations, and my daughter was a baby. And I had to make a decision for them because I already saw his grades slipping and he was acting out in school. I had to make a decision to be healthier in terms of our environment. And for me, I had to go back home to my mom for a little bit and get back on my feet. Um, and that's pretty much how I navigated. I brought them to a healthy environment. I took them away from the abuse. So, that's pretty much the only thing other than therapy. And I would say, now therapy has become a great resource for so many people, and it's definitely affordable for both children, victims, anyone. So I would say, definitely therapy would be another option that would be good for, showing children the right way. But for me, I had to go back home. I had to start all over.
That's the same with me. I didn't deal with domestic violence, but divorce, I had to start all the way back over.
Yeah, and
We always,
it's
hmm
tough when you got to start over. It does
well,
a lot
that's
to your mental.
yeah, but that's the great thing, like you said, the love where you need the love and the support
Mhm.
system, and
Yeah.
so because not everybody has that to fall back on, and that's what's so awesome in your situation. And this leads me to my next question. Was there any was there any time that you thought you were not going to find your way out?
So yeah, there was a time when I thought I wasn't gonna make it. This was actually the time when I wasn't supposed to be with my abuser. I left and then I went back. My abuser was very controlling. So it was one day that I was supposed to report to work and I never made it. Um, and just reflecting back on that day, I remember now, having heard it from my boss at the time. They called my phone, they tried to get in touch with me on social media. I was basically away from the world. And my abuser took that whole entire day to hold me hostage and berate me, just the entire day, telling me I was nothing, I'll never be anything, I'm worthless, and the list goes on. And it really played a lot on my mental state, because here I am just trying to go to work to make an honest living for my children. And now he's taking that away from me too. So I was really exhausted. I really thought, Sharika, that I wasn't going to make it out. And what I had to do was I finally offered him, because like I told you, it was emotional abuse and financial abuse. I offered to go to the ATM and get him some new clothes and new shoes. I had to really, really kind of bribe him to get him to stop. And when we went and did that, I said, I'll drop you off to your friends. And I didn't tell him at the time that I don't want to see him again or didn't want to see him again. I just played my cards. Like, I was like, I have to be careful with this person because I know that they're a ticking time bomb. So I'm just going to do everything that they tell me to do. I'm going to give them whatever they want. And then hopefully I'm going to be out of this. See, I was almost 3 hours away from home. So even if I wanted to, I could have, probably reached my mom some way. I didn't have my phone because he had shattered my phone. So I really, really had to just think outside the box. And even though as a single mom, I didn't have the money to give him, I felt like it was my only way out. So yeah, I gave him the money and dropped him with his friends, and I blocked the number and I went into hiding. um, this was the moment that I realized that I wasn't strong enough for my abuser. What I mean by that is I wasn't strong enough to ignore the calls. I wasn't strong enough to not be in the same room as him. I just wasn't strong enough. And I am so grateful that I was able to make the decision to just avoid altogether, because I think that time, along with God, it saved my life. And in that moment, feeling like I wasn't going to make it out, all I could think about was my children
Yeah.
and how I felt like I failed them.
Hmm. Well, you did great.
Thank
You
you.
did great. You did great. So my last question is, what advice can you give to a victim that's in a domestic violence relationship and they're watching? Because this is also aired on YouTube, so anybody could be watching.
So I would say, if you're watching, I know you're scared, but I want to remind you that you are valuable and that you matter. Your mind matters. Domestic violence comes to play on your mind, your emotions. It plays on your very identity. But I would say, think of the big picture. It's not worth going through the abuse, especially if you have to lose yourself. I just want the person that's listening to know you can rebuild your confidence and you can start over again. Um, Sometimes people think it's too late to start over, but I just want them to know they can live again, they can love again. And then if you're watching from Facebook, I want you guys to stay connected to Mind Matters. And then I also have a group, it's called the Broken Wing Project. This is where I do most of the interacting for the foundation, just to understand what the community needs are. And I think that through either channel, either group, or any, positive group on Facebook, I say connect to them, and know that there is hope, that you can move from a hopeless state to healed. It's just going to take time and dedication, and it's going to take focus and understanding that change does not feel good, but it's necessary if you want to grow.
Growing is pain.
Yeah,
It is not easy. If you don't feel the pain, then you're probably not growing.
that's true.
Growing is pain. So I thank you so much, Ashley.
Oh, yeah.
Um, it actually made me look at, especially with taking on this show, because this time last year in October, because you guys also share a month with breast cancer awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And last year we were talking about breast cancer awareness. So I did a lot of studying on, or paying more attention, I would say, being more aware of
Right.
domestic violence. And it gave me a whole nother look on things when it comes to domestic violence, because some people can say in their head, well, why can't they leave? But we're
Mm-hmm.
not in that situation. We're
Right.
not in their situation. We're not in y'all's shoes. I'm not in that room with you when things are going on. I don't, and I do believe that it is fear, like you said,
Yeah.
of the unknown, like what's
Yeah.
going to happen if I leave. I
Yeah.
do honestly believe that. And one thing that I can relate with you on, and what you had said when it came to loving them.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that that's just like when it comes to mental health. If you don't show that love, and it's well, you should have did this, you should have did that, and all these questions, you're going to shut them away. I do believe that. So I thank you for shining more light on domestic awareness. And I thank you for surviving. I thank you for being tough. I thank you for being the beautiful butterfly that you are,
You.
and still living, and still
Yeah.
living. And I also thank each and every one of you that took the time to listen to us on tonight. All of the viewers, and even on Facebook. Y'all, we are live on Facebook. I'm learning this thing. We are
Yeah.
live, and we did have one person, Aaron, that said good show from from YouTube. I'm sorry, we are live on YouTube. I'm
Awesome.
learning. I usually would post over there, but we are actually live. So I will plug that in. If you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, go over to YouTube. And I think this video is not on the Mind Matter YouTube, but it's on the Living with Rika YouTube, because it was easier. So if you want to watch the replay, you can also watch it over there and go subscribe to the channel. Um, but I love you, Ashley. I love each and every one of y'all that is
Thank
on this
you.
show. I want you to come back and make sure you plug Broken Wings project into this, either in the comment section or anywhere, so that they know where to reach you. And
Sure.
any other information, like the lady's name, I believe that you had said.
Sonia Holt Scar.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So make sure they get that information. You can go ahead and plug that in here, and we gonna shine the light on domestic violence. Let me know if there's anything that I can do to help shine the light,
I
and I'll
sure
make sure
will.
I can get the resources to you. All right,
Thank
guys.
you so much.
No problem. I love you all. Be tuned for the next person that will be coming on. I'm not for sure who that is, but always stay tuned, because we always just pop up. If you have not gotten a t-shirt or whatever else, just hit me in my inbox, and we will make sure that you guys get merchandise if you are wanting to purchase any. So I thank you guys. Stay tuned for the next person, and we will see you guys next time.